Steadily it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, back with another listing review. Without further delay, let's jump right in. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It's absolutely free. And I've always kind of sought out to do something totally different than really what anyone else is doing in the Lincoln community. This is a recent listing on a great website, bringatrailer.com. The site's been around a long time, and most of my listing reviews do come from this website. So tip of the cap to Bring a Trailer. I also want to give a tip of the cap to the folks who have listed this car. I went through it earlier today, and I will tell you, I think they've done a very thorough job. One of the best that I've seen and that I recall on this website. So 64 Lincoln Continental convertible. This is the listing. There's about 5 days left. I do try to do these reviews in advance in the event that you are looking for a car. What I want to do now is I'm going to jump back to my presentation, and I'll go ahead and show you here what we're looking at. For the 64 model year, we can see in green, this row, there were 3,328 convertibles produced for that model year. I've continued to say this, pretty low production overall in the grand scheme of things. The Haggerty valuation, if we jump over here to Haggerty, we could take a look. This is real time. I just logged in. I happen to be a paying customer of theirs. We could see the range is from 24,000 to just over 100,000. Oh, by the way, add 10% for factory AC, which this is a factory AC car. We've continued to see the values come up, although according to this chart here, we're down 4%, but you got to take that with a grain of salt because it really depends, in my opinion, on the car itself. When you go to an outlet like Bring a Trailer, although we have seen $150,000 Lincolns on here, it's more of a rarity that we've seen so far. When we go back to this car, we see the front three-quarter shot. We've got Arctic white Lincoln. We've got the red interior. The one thing that's going to stick out to some of the purists and some of the people that want to keep these cars more factory correct is the wider white wall tire. I get that that's not going to appease everyone. However, there's a lot of people that would love to own this car, would turn the key, put the top down, put the windows down, and cruise until their heart's content with, dare I say, a wide white wall tire. This 64 convertible was refurbished before the current owner's 2006 acquisition. Isn't a quick flip. We're in 2026 now, folks. So this is a 20-year owned car, which is kind of an eternity if you think about it in today's standards. We had the standard 430 V8, which is the MEL, that Mercury Edsel Lincoln 430. That they used from 58 to 65. We've got the 15-inch steel wheels. They talk about all of the power options, which we'll kind of get to for the most part. And they even talk about 2021 has included replacing the tires, shocks, brake, master cylinder, alternator, thermostat. I mean, all of the key things that you're going to want to do to really any classic car, they've done that stuff within the last 5 years, give or take. Does have an Arizona title, and that is one thing that they call out here. And we can see as we kind of go down, we've got that Arctic white. They'll, of course, break down the VIN number. In addition, if I jump back to my presentation here, I do kind of reinforce the listing details really as a copy and paste. This stuff is like the RSTLNE and Wheel of Fortune. It's pretty much a given. There's not a lot of options, if you will, on these cars. So the power steering, power brakes, power seat, things like that, all of that stuff is pretty standard. The VIN that we're going to get to in just a moment, I'd like to just break this down for anyone that's interested. We know the last 5 digits are 21,720. If you've been watching these listed reviews, I kind of break it all down here. Bottom line is 86 in the VIN stands for the four-door convertible. And we know it's the 21,720th model or unit built for that model year. We look towards the bottom, we see the tally is 36,297. That's total units for the 64 model year. Keep in mind, folks, that's the sedans and convertibles. I did not tally in the limousines, aka limos, only 15 of those. But that's where you get when you go, well, hey, Jay, I thought you said there's 3,000 some odd convertibles. How is this a 21,000 consecutive unit number, 720, if you will? And the reason for that is those consecutive unit numbers are a tally between the sedan and the convertible. So 21,000 out of 36,000, give or take halfway through that model year. Now we're going to flip back to Bring and Trailer in just a moment, but on this, kind of what we refer to as the VIN plate, this one is a little tough to decipher in terms of what's on it. This isn't something that I would say is a deal breaker. What I have noticed over the years looking at these cars in person and online is that oftentimes when paint shops are doing their work, assuming it has been resprayed at some point, these pieces of what appears to be kind of aluminum, right? They typically get painted or scuffed up, but we can make out the embossed numbers on here and letters, which is key. We know it's Arctic White, which is that M paint code that we can see right here. 85 represents the red leather interior, which looks beautiful. And we know it's a Dallas DSO 22. And we know 09, A like Alpha, that is A stands for January. And then 09 was the 9th of January. So the 9th day of the month. So we know it was January 9th of 1964 that this vehicle was created. Okay, jumping back over here. The first thing you're going to see is this stunning, beautiful red interior. I own a red 65 with very, very, very nice interior. I love, as I've said for the longest time I've been doing these factory interiors, especially when they've been taken great care of. If you've ever sat on a car or sat on a seat that is just the original from 1964, 1965 that's been taken care of, it's just stunning. And it does look to be original. The cabin house is bench seating, upholstered in red leather, along with color-coordinated dashboards. So with my red 65, it has a red interior as well. We know that not only does the lower dashboard appear in red, the upper dashboard does as well, which is kind of nice. Some of the other colors, it's a black dashboard. We can see the MEL 430. We do see that it is an air-conditioned car, so factory AC. We can see it does appear that it has that 3-port, which is really what you want to have on one of these cars if you can. You don't really want to have the newer replacement 2-port, really not what most people have or want. We can also see that it does have the single pot reservoir for the master cylinder, although it has been changed out, if I recall correctly. I always recommended dual. You're sometimes going to have folks just go, hey, I want to have what was on there. My understanding is if you ever took this to a Lincoln or LCOC event, they're not going to take points away if you have a dual master cylinder. That's really, of course, becomes standard in 67, but it's definitely a good upgrade that you typically want to make. All of this stuff is pretty much standard here, and everything is standard there. All right, so we have these videos, and this is a fantastic. This is one of the things that I appreciate about this particular seller. There's different videos. This one is a warm start, kind of just showing the ease and how these cars start up. If the car has the working choke, these cars start very easily. My red 65 can sit for weeks, and just with a couple of pumps, the car is started. They showcase the auto drops working. At least there is the left window. Here is the right window. So Bring a Trailer, whether they're, kind of coaching these folks on what to submit, or this person may have been watching our videos or just knew what a potential buyer would want to see. You could just see the breakdown of videos: cold start, convertible exterior, convertible interior, exhaust, convertible driving, the antenna. Just a fantastic job. When we get into the photos, we have upwards of 150 plus photos. What I would say is this: 64 is very, very sought after. I've always said this: you're going to have folks that love the 1, 2s, and 3s in that 60s year. Then you're going to have folks that love the 64, 65, and you're going to have folks that love the 66, 67. Those are kind of the three different makes, if you will, in terms of the styling. What I love about 64 is they did add about 3 inches to the rear seat. That was based upon client or customer feedback. It's a little bit bigger of a car. I do love the flat glass on the sides. A lot of folks go, "Hey, the curved glass is um, more prestigious in 61, 2, and 3." Hey, that's definitely a preference, and I certainly see that. You can see here with the top up and the windows up, it is flat glass. Really, if you think about it, it's a convertible. The only time you're going to have the windows up, either on a very cold night, okay, or if you're at a show and for whatever reason it starts raining, you're going to put the top and the windows up. Other than that, top down, windows down. So it's not that big a deal, I think, to most people. We can see, to me, very classy color, white. Everything looks good from what we can see here as we kind of just go through these. And I do put a link to the listing in the description of this video. I love the roll down back window, not like the Toyota Tundra, but this literally, you can zip it down and you could roll it down. And this is super cool because let's say you were in Arizona or like in Florida, it does get really, really hot in the summer. And sometimes I could see, especially if someone had a skin condition or something like that, that they said, you know what, let's put the top up. Okay, in those rare circumstances, put the windows down, you roll this window down and secure it there. You got a nice breeze coming through. We can see there the black is missing from this trim, which is like a paint. You could always replace those if that's something you wanted to do. I like the authenticity of like this car kind of looking really, really good, but also not looking like a full blown show car that would be like in a museum. You know, little things like this don't bother me at all. I actually like to see it just because it shows that it's a car that's been driven. We can see the door edge guards. These were a dealer add-on. Believe it or not, NOS door edge guards, I've seen them go for $400 plus. Some people do not like those. They can easily be removed. There could be chips and things like that under, but obviously they would protect the door in a parking lot type situation, depending on where the driver was at. We can see the headlights on there. Typical on these cars, I've often talked about on the deck lid and the hood, you will sometimes see, and when I say sometimes, I really should say often, you'll often see a non-perfect deck lid and or hood. Everything that we've understand is that has to do with kind of the adhesive that was used between the inner skeleton and the outer. It kind of holds some moisture. But if that was a deal breaker for you, or not a deal breaker for the purchase, but certainly you could have a really good body shop kind of go in and fix that. On my 64, I love the oxidized look. Eventually, mine's kind of getting to the point where eventually I am going to have to attend to that, but that is something you're going to see on most of these cars. Okay, we've got the 15-inch wheel in 64. We've got that factory wheel cover. Again, let's give some kudos to this person because they do have the bias ply tires. A lot of people like the look of a bias ply. If you're not that old school, now I didn't live in the era when bias plies were a thing. I grew up in the, let's see, am I saying this right? I did. Okay, there's bias ply. Yeah, so I didn't grow up in the bias ply era, but we know that it has a look, and you can kind of look at that smooth look there versus the radials. That's what I was trying to think of. So, you know, certainly some folks might go, you know what, I want to have this slim white wall, that slim strip. And if somebody were to replace the tire, certainly they could go and do that. But I certainly like the wide whites. The red interior, again, looks really, really good. I mean, from what I can see on the seats, they do look original, which is fantastic. We can look at the carpet. We can also see that this appears to be original. We've got the heel pad. If you ever wanted to change that, there is a vendor out there. I've mentioned his name in the past. You could buy the carpet, and he has the mold that he makes the heel pad. But for the most part, got a few little things there, but obviously you could just kind of wipe that down. We see, again, the leather looks amazing. I've sat in some of these cars that have the original interior, and they just look so awesome. I like to look at the brake pedal, or excuse me, the brake pedal and the throttle. My friend Tony and I have talked about this in the past, but, you know, it kind of gives you an idea when you look at the odometer. You know, if a car, you know, was supposedly a 30,000 mile car, you can kind of get a little bit of the story from looking at the throttle, aka gas pedal, and the brake pedal on just the wear, if you will, on it. Again, red interior looks stunning. For the most part, it looks like we've got all the normal stuff that comes with these cars. It is an AC car, so we do have the AC vents, and it doesn't look like there's anything extra from what I'm seeing so far. I did forget to mention that this is, it says 15,000 miles shown, okay? The paperwork, if this person ever gotten like an oil change or anything like that, the paperwork would indicate, like if somebody came in and it had 79,000 miles, right? It would indicate that. And then let's say you saw other maintenance done and then it was like 15,000. Well, then that shows that, hey, this car turned over. I highly doubt that this car is a 15,000 mile car. More than likely it's 115,000 miles. And that's why when we look at that brake pedal and that throttle, that gives us a little bit of insight into, how much the car was driven. We can see it is not an AM FM radio. Again, that would have been an option, but most people are going to opt to put some sort of like little Bluetooth deal in the glove box or something to that effect, or just a Bluetooth speaker in the car. I love being able to get in my car, even though I don't use the factory radio, whether it's AM or AM FM. I do like that it lights up. I do like that I can turn it on if I want, but certainly there's plenty of other options out there. We can see it does have the front seat belts, and those are color matched. You can see a little discoloration here, not the end of the world. You can get new seat belts. As far as what I would probably do is, if you were looking to restore these, you can just dye them. More than likely is my opinion on that. The rear seats do not have the factory, but this kind of has an old school blue mat there. You can there's a couple usual suspects out there that make if you wanted to have like a factory style mat, which is what I would kind of add to it. The trunk looks amazing. This car is beautiful. You've got your really nice liner in there. One thing I would recommend, there's a video on my channel, you would want to add a bar to this knuckle here, and you can buy one at Home Depot. You cut it to length, and you will add that bar in here. It takes about 5 minutes to do, and that bar will help ensure that this stays stiff, and that's something that John Cashman has reinforced for a very long time. It was kind of a manufacturing defect to a certain extent on 64, 65. By the time 66 rolls around, Lincoln had fixed that, and you'll see in 66, 67, there is a thick bar that's welded in there. And that's why we talk about adding that only for 64, 65. We can see here the beautiful MEL 430 engine bay looks really, really good. You've got a battery in here that looks good. Kind of a smaller battery. I like the 27F batteries, which John Cashman always recommended, but certainly a lot of the newer style batteries are going to power this fine. If you're ever in a situation where you feel like you want to replace the battery, I always kind of go, hey, 27F, they've done me very, very well. It looks like we've got new insulation under the hood, which is awesome as well. When we get into some of these things, we've got the window switches. We've got plenty of receipts, which I love to see. You've got a keychain with the 64 Lincoln on it, a little Hot Wheels deal. The maintenance log, the owner's manual. Here's what I was talking about. They even come with some extra trim pieces for the rear quarter panels if you wanted to have something that looked factory correct with the black in there. Again, it's going to be total preference. Looks like an extra radio, water pump, some different parts. This is where it gets really awesome. They actually pulled the plugs. They show the AC temperature. They do a compression test on all of the cylinders. This stuff isn't difficult to do, but it's the extra mile that we hardly ever see someone do on these cars. And for anybody that's been around cars, or, is as a, weekend mechanic, or you work on these cars for a living, or any car, I mean, you realize like the ease of doing a compression test, but someone going the extra mile to show that, hey, this isn't a lipstick job, right? This car is what I'm saying it is fantastic. I know I'm not a body person. I've had people say over the years, these magnet tests are good. Some say they don't really matter. They've went the extra mile and taken some magnets to kind of show that, hey, this isn't a Bondo car. Now, again, there's some people that would say, well, what can you really get from that? Hey, it's a win-win. They're showing you this, okay? I've seen Lincolns with way worse under the doors than what we're seeing here. So kudos to them for showing all of this detail, just showing, again, this is a car that, is not perfect. You can see kind of where the trim is at there, but they're also kind of reinforcing that, hey, this is not a quote unquote Bondo bucket. And this gives us a little bit of insight to more than likely it's not, which is fantastic. I often talk about, being able to see these cars in person. Well, you got to be able to check them over as well. So they're trying to give you as much as they can. We can see a little piece that was welded in the lower corner of this door. This is stuff that I've seen on these cars, depending on, where they kept inside their entire existence. But the key thing is they're being really, really upfront. So what do you think? I'm not going to say what I believe the car will sell for. I do believe that this car is very nice from what we can see. Now, I did go kind of quick through some of the photos underneath the car. The one thing that I would say from what we can see, the car looks very, very, very solid. There's a little discoloration under it in certain areas, but it does not look like, as in terms of the photos, that it's anything to worry about. If I was going to be critical at all, I would say, hey, if they had access to a lift, or, let's say they felt comfortable to put the car up on a jack or on some jack stands, right? Do it safe, get a little bit better photos underneath, especially under the battery tray and up under that front cross member, under that rear or under that front bumper. Those type of things help to reinforce that, hey, this car is what we say it is. Certainly, from what we can see, from what I can see, it's a very, very nice car. Again, 64, very sought after. And the videos, the paperwork, and the extra mile that I think that they went is really going to help sell this car. Is it perfect? No, but like my friend TC always says, these cars often need something. Okay, some need everything. This car, I don't think, is one that needs everything. There's a few things that you could potentially do to dial this in and make it an investment for you, and you enjoy it. But at the end of the day, if these cars were driven, this is over 60 years old now, these cars are rarely going to be perfect. Get in, turn the key, put the windows down, put the top down, and cruise to your heart's content. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you for the support. ODB, the Lincoln Addict. We're out of here. Peace.
LA where the players play, and we ride on them things like every day.